This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 10% off today by visiting hover.com/gadgettv.
Hi, this is Andrew Moore-Crispin for Gadget TV on Butterscotch.com, and today we're taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab Android tablet. Now this is Samsung's first tablet, the first real kind of tablet from a major manufacturer. As you can see here, we have a 7-inch screen. Now this is a capacitive touch screen. There were rumors in the early days of the Tab that it was going to be an AMOLED or Super AMOLED screen. Not the case here. We're actually dealing with a standard TFT LCD screen. But as you can see, it's fairly nice and bright. Now, as you can see, across the top here, we do have Samsung's own kind of skin put atop the Android platform. But we can still do all the Android 2.2 stuff, like adding widgets, changing live wallpapers, and doing all that kind of stuff. So you can see here that we have the option to add live wallpapers and do things like that. Now, it's important to note, as the first real kind of major entry into the tablet market, there have been Android tablets before, but this is the first one that's really kind of made any waves. What we're dealing with is an Android market that's really not quite adequately prepared for the tablet, and really a tablet that's a little bit before its time. Let me explain what I mean by that. So if we go into the settings, we can see that it's actually running Android 2.2. So we see here running firmware version 2.2. Now, not really ideally suited to a tablet, and the reason for that is it really has been optimized for a phone screen. So with a 7-inch screen, we're dealing with many apps that aren't adequately scaled to that screen. Some games, like for example the recent release of Angry Birds, will natively upscale. Anything that's been designed to Google's exact Android spec will upscale. The unfortunate reality is that many of the apps in the market have not been developed to that spec, and so we're going to see a lot of games and things like that don't upscale. Instead of upscaling, we'll get basically a smaller screen in the middle, which can be a little bit awkward to actually interact with. But on to some of the good stuff. Now, we mentioned in the market, you're not going to find a ton of apps that are really optimized for this device. However, Samsung has actually answered that a lot by creating many of its own apps that are optimized for the Galaxy Tab interface. So if we look in the Samsung Apps Store, it's a little desolate right now. In fact, by desolate, I mean there's absolutely nothing there. But hopefully in the coming weeks and months, we'll be seeing a lot more Samsung-designed apps that are really designed to take advantage of the Tab's increased screen real estate. So if we hit on the Home tab here, we can look at a couple of the apps that have been optimized for the screen. So this is Samsung's own email application. So we can see here, pretty standard interface, way to look at our email. However, if we turn it into landscape, now you see that we have kind of a panel on the side here for our email, and we have a panel on the side here where we can actually read. So it's a handy way to preview email and actually see our email over here. So hopefully we'll see more applications coming out that do take advantage of the larger screens, especially given that there are many tabs kind of slated in the works. The Dell Streak is out with its 5-inch screen. Like I said, this is a 7-inch screen, and guaranteed we'll be seeing a lot more tablets coming out that run the Android operating system. But what we really have here is kind of an interim step running 2.2. When Gingerbread 3.0 comes out, the Samsung Tab will meet those specs. The recommended system specs for Gingerbread, which is, like I said, Android 3.0, a 1 gigahertz processor, which we do have in the Samsung Galaxy Tab, 512 megabytes of RAM, which we also have present in the Tab. So let's talk a little bit about tech specs. As I said, 1 gigahertz processor and 512 megs of RAM. It's also 802.11 Wi-Fi, A, B, G, and N, which is a good thing. Bluetooth 3.0, so the latest spec of the latest version of the Bluetooth spec, that'll let us do things like transfer files, stream stereo audio under A2DP and things like that. Now, I mentioned the 7-inch touchscreen, which is really the central focus here. It's a WSVGA screen, which means 1024 by 600 pixels. Capacitive, which means multi-touch, and it's available in 2 different models, 16 and 32 gigabytes. And we can also expand the storage up to 32 gigabytes using micro SD cards. It's got a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which promises, Samsung's saying 7 hours of video use. We're finding it's really more on the line of say, about 5 hours of mixed use. So it's really not going to last you the whole day, but use sparingly, I suppose. Now with all that out of the way, let's take a quick look at the actual hardware itself. So across the bottom here, we have the pretty standard touch buttons, a menu button, home button, return button, and a search button. They'll have different functions depending on which app you're in. If we take our gadget stand out here, we also have a front-facing camera, which is I believe it's a 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera. On the back of the device, we have a 3 megapixel camera with a flash. So while the Galaxy Tab isn't really as finely tuned and slick to use as the iPad, that's at least one selling feature that the iPad can't currently match. We have a power button up here. We have a volume rocker here. And we also have storage space here for the expandable storage with micro SD cards. And in this slot here, we have a SIM card. Now, important to note, while it does have Wi-Fi, you can get a data plan with it. In fact, they're not actually selling a model. Excuse me while I try and get this SIM card. While they're not actually selling a model available in stores that doesn't use a SIM card, so there's no Wi-Fi only model, you can purchase the device for full price from a carrier and opt not to use the data connection. And as I said off the top, we're not really sure how much this thing is going to cost exactly right now. It's really being set by carriers at present. On the other side of the device, we have a microphone here. On the top, we have a headset port. So stereo headphones, 3-stage, actually 4-stage, so we can use a remote microphone and the headphones part. And on the bottom here, we have speaker and interesting 30-pin connector that we can use with some of the accessories that Samsung's already announced and some of the accessories that are going to be coming soon. So they've announced an 86-key keyboard that we can plug our Galaxy Tab into. I've actually had an opportunity to use that, and it does actually make the experience that much better. There's also a car dock, which will, as soon as you dock the Tab into your car, with the car dock, it'll actually turn it into Google Car Home, which is, let's see if I can find it here. Might be something we have to install, but that's the application that allows you to do turn-by-turn navigation and basically turns your tab into kind of a car computer. You can control it with your voice, do voice search, send email and text using your voice. Now finally, we mentioned some of the Samsung apps that are available. Let's go through those in a little bit more detail. One of my favorites is Daily Briefing. So this gives us weather, stock prices, and news. So you can see here 10 degrees and cloudy in Toronto, which is where the Butterscotch studios are. We can see the Tucows stock price holding steady as always, and we can see the day's news. Now we can configure all this stuff, choose our own news sources. We can add multiple locations, multiple stocks, and do all that kind of stuff. So if we go back into the main menu here, into the applications, also the Memo application. Another interesting one that actually takes advantage of the larger screen real estate. Very similar to the Memos app on the iPad, where if we turn it this way, we're presented with a notepad here, and we also have access to all the memos that we've saved down the side here. Actually, this here is the swipe keyboard, which is included with the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and that allows us to enter text without having to tap on buttons. So we can just type, for example, Butterscotch, and hopefully it'll come up. It's a little tough to do. Butterskitch, close enough. Now, interestingly, the YouTube application, which we can only assume has been developed to Android's exacting spec, given that it is a Google product, does not take advantage of the larger screen real estate. So all we're doing, in many cases, all we get is basically a landscape view on the same view that we had when we were in portrait mode. And that's a common theme across many of the apps that you'll be finding. So like I say, all we have to do really is wait for developers to come on board and really start taking advantage of the larger screen real estate. Android 3.0 Gingerbread will actually go a long way to helping to improve hopefully the Samsung Galaxy Tab if Samsung opts to update expediently, and also the tablet market for Android in general. So that's a quick look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab. For Gadget TV, I'm Andrew Moore Crispin. For more sweet stuff, visit butterscotch.com.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 10% off today by visiting hover.com/gadgettv.